Maya didn't know that the man sitting 3 tables away, nursing his black coffee while pretending to read emails, was the most powerful alpha king in the entire Pacific Northwest. She didn't know that he'd been drawn to the little cafe by a pull he couldn't explain, following a golden thread of warmth that seemed to tug at something deep in his chest. And she certainly didn't know that when her phone rang with the call that would shatter her morning, he would be listening to every devastating word. "Maya, darling." The saccharine voice of her ex-boyfriend Derek made her stomach clench even before he continued. "I just wanted to give you a heads up about Friday night." Friday night, the company gala where she'd be receiving the Innovation Award for her breakthrough work on sustainable packaging design. The night she'd been looking forward to for months. What about Friday night? She kept her voice steady, though something cold was already settling in her chest. "Well, I'll be there with Stephanie. You remember Stephanie, don't you? From accounting. We got engaged last month." His tone was pure malice wrapped in false sweetness. "I thought it would be awkward if you didn't know beforehand, especially since everyone will be watching you up there on stage all alone." The words hit like physical blows, not just that he'd be there with his new fiancée, but that he'd chosen this night, her night, the biggest professional achievement of her career, and he was going to turn it into a public humiliation. "Derek, you don't even work at Morrison Industries anymore. Why would you—" "Stephanie's +1, obviously. She insisted we come support you." His laugh was cruel. "Though between you and me, I think she just wants to see if you'll finally have a date or if you'll still be showing up to these things pathetically alone." Maya's breath caught. The golden thread in the stranger's chest pulled tighter. "I have to go," she managed, ending the call before Derek could deliver any more poison. Her hands were shaking as she immediately dialed her best friend. "Jenna, please tell me you're free Friday night. I know it's last minute, but—" "Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. I'm in Portland until Sunday for my sister's baby shower. What's wrong? You sound upset." Maya closed her eyes. "Derek's going to be at the gala with his new fiancée. I need a date. I can't show up alone, not with him there watching and waiting for everyone to pity me. Can you ask someone from work? Everyone's either bringing their actual partners or going stag by choice. I can't just randomly ask someone to be my fake date to my own award ceremony." Maya scrolled frantically through her contacts. "What about your brother?" "He's in Europe, remember? Maya, you're spiralling. Just go alone and hold your head high. You earned that award." But Maya was already dialing her cousin, then her college roommate, then the guy from her kickboxing class who'd asked her out twice. No, out of town. Each refusal made her chest tighter, her breathing shallower. By her 5th failed call, tears were threatening to spill. She was going to have to walk into that ballroom alone, accept her award in front of 200 colleagues and industry leaders, and pretend she didn't notice Derek and Stephanie watching from the audience, probably taking bets on how pathetic she looked. "This is hopeless," she whispered into her phone after her last contact sent her straight to voicemail. "I'm completely screwed." That's when the stranger approached her table. Maya looked up through her tears to find herself staring into the most extraordinary amber eyes she'd ever seen. The man was tall, probably 6'3", with dark hair and the kind of presence that seemed to command attention without trying. He was devastatingly handsome, but there was something else about him, something that made her pulse skip and her skin warm in ways that had nothing to do with embarrassment. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice low and rich, but I couldn't help overhearing. "You need a date for Friday night?" Maya blinked at him, certain she'd misheard. "I'm sorry?" "Your award ceremony. You need someone to escort you." His smile was gentle, understanding. "I'd be honoured to accompany you." She stared at him for a long moment, taking in the expensive cut of his dark grey suit, the confident way he held himself, the sincerity in those incredible eyes. He was clearly out of her league in every possible way. "You don't even know me," she managed. "I know you're sitting here in tears because someone is trying to steal your moment of triumph." His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. I know you've called what sounds like half your contact list rather than show up alone and give them that satisfaction. He paused. And I know you deserve better. Something warm unfurled in Maya's chest. This stranger, this impossibly attractive stranger, was offering to be her knight in shining armour, and she couldn't even figure out why. I can't ask you to do that. You don't understand what you'd be walking into. Derek is... She struggled for words. He'll be horrible to you just to get to me, and everyone will be staring and wondering who you are and how I possibly convinced someone like you to be there with someone like me. The man's eyes flashed with something that might have been anger, though his voice remained gentle. Someone like you. You know. Maya gestured vaguely at herself, then at him. Look at you. You're obviously successful and gorgeous and probably have women lined up around the block. I'm nobody special. I design packaging for a living. You design award-winning packaging, he corrected quietly. You've created something significant enough that your entire industry wants to honour you for it. That's not nobody special. Maya felt tears threaten again, but this time they weren't from despair. When was the last time someone had spoken about her work, about her with that kind of respect? Why would you want to help me? She whispered. The stranger's smile turned mysterious, and something in his expression suggested he was holding back more than he was saying. Let's just say I have my own reasons for wanting to attend an event like this, and I'd much rather spend the evening with someone genuine who deserves to be celebrated than deal with the usual crowd of people who only see me as... He paused, as if catching himself. Well, let's just say they only see what they want from me. Maya studied his face, looking for signs of deception or pity, but found neither. There was something almost predatory in the way he looked at her, but not in a way that scared her, more like he was claiming something that already belonged to him. You're serious, she said slowly. Completely. He extended his hand across the small table. I'm Alexander, by the way. Maya hesitated only a moment before taking his hand. The contact sent warmth shooting up her arm and settling somewhere behind her sternum like a second heartbeat. Maya. Maya, he repeated, and her name sounded different in his voice. Precious. So, Maya, who designs award-winning packaging and deserves so much better than whatever garbage that phone call was about, will you let me take you to your gala? She should say no. This was crazy. You didn't just accept help from handsome strangers in coffee shops, no matter how sincere they seemed. But something in his amber eyes was so steady, so certain, that her usual defences crumbled. Yes, she heard herself say. Yes, I think I'd like that very much. Alexander's smile was pure satisfaction, and Maya caught just a glimpse of something sharp in his expression. Something that suggested Derek had no idea what he'd just brought down on himself. Perfect, Alexander said, still holding her hand. I'll pick you up at 7. And Maya? Yes? Wear something that makes you feel like the queen you are. Friday night, everyone's going to know exactly how special you really are. As he walked away, Maya sat in stunned silence, touching the spot on her hand where his skin had met hers. She had no idea what she'd just agreed to, but for the first time since Derek's call, she was actually looking forward to Friday night. Behind her, she missed the way every person in the cafe had gone quiet when Alexander approached her table, recognition and something like awe flickering across their faces. She didn't see the way they watched him leave, or the careful distance they'd maintained throughout his entire conversation with her. Maya didn't know any of that yet, but she was about to. The days that followed their coffee shop encounter passed in a strange blur of anticipation and disbelief. Maya caught herself checking her phone constantly, half convinced that Alexander would text to say he'd changed his mind, that helping her had been some momentary impulse he now regretted. But Thursday afternoon, her phone buzzed with a message that made her stomach flip. Meet me at Vivian's on 5th Street at 4 p.m. We're getting you a dress. Alexander. Vivian's. Maya's breath caught. Vivian's was the kind of boutique where celebrities shopped, where a single dress cost more than most people's monthly rent. She'd walked past the gleaming windows dozens of times, admiring the gorgeous gowns displayed like works of art, never imagining she'd actually step inside. She typed back, "That's not necessary. I have something I can wear." His response came immediately. "I'm sure you do. Humour me." Maya stared at the message for a full minute, her practical side warring with something deeper. No man had ever wanted to buy her clothes before. Derek had barely remembered her birthday, let alone offered to dress her up. The gesture felt too intimate, too generous, too much like something a real boyfriend would do. But wasn't that the point? They were supposed to be convincing. Vivian's was even more intimidating on the inside. Crystal chandeliers cast everything in soft golden light, and the few dresses on display looked like they belonged in a museum. Maya felt completely out of place in her work clothes. Sensible black pants and a blue blouse that had seemed professional this morning, but now felt painfully ordinary. "Maya." Alexander's voice came from behind her, and she turned to find him emerging from what looked like a private consultation area. He moved toward her with that same confident grace she remembered, but today she noticed something else, the way the staff watched him. Not with the polite attention they'd give any wealthy customer, but with something that looked almost like reverence. "You came," he said, and his smile was warm enough to melt her nervousness. "I almost didn't," she admitted. "This place is perfect for what we need," he finished. "Trust me." Before Maya could respond, a woman appeared beside them, as if she'd materialized from thin air. She was elegantly dressed in black, with silver hair swept into a perfect chignon, and the kind of posture that suggested she'd been dealing with society events longer than Maya had been alive. "Your Majesty," the woman said, and Maya felt the world tilt sideways. "Your Majesty." Maya's head snapped toward Alexander, whose jaw had tightened almost imperceptibly. The woman, Vivian presumably, had gone very still, her eyes wide with something that might have been horror at her slip. "Vivian," Alexander said quietly, "I'd like you to meet Maya. She needs something spectacular for tomorrow night's Morrison Industries gala." Vivian recovered quickly, but Maya caught the way she dipped her head in what was unmistakably a small bow. "Of course, Miss Maya, it would be my honour to help you find the perfect gown." But Maya wasn't listening anymore. Her mind was reeling, pieces clicking together with devastating clarity. The expensive suit, the way everyone in the coffee shop had gone quiet, the confidence, the presence, the way he'd said he had his own reasons for attending events like this. "Excuse me," Maya managed, backing toward the door. "I need some air." She made it 3 steps before Alexander's hand closed gently around her wrist. The contact sent that same warm pulse through her, but now it felt overwhelming instead of comforting. "Maya, wait." "You're him," she whispered, not trusting her voice to carry. "You're the Alpha King." Alexander's amber eyes held hers steadily. "Yes." "Oh, God!" Maya's free hand pressed to her chest, where her heart was hammering against her ribs. "Oh, God, I can't do this. I can't. What was I thinking? You're the Alpha King and I'm nobody, and tomorrow night everyone's going to see us together and wonder what kind of charity case you're—" "Stop." The command in his voice was quiet but absolute, and Maya found herself obeying before she'd consciously decided to. "Look at me, Maya." She did, and found his gaze fierce and entirely focused on her. "You are not nobody," he said, each word deliberate. "You are not a charity case, and if anyone tomorrow night dares to suggest otherwise, they'll answer to me." "But why?" The question burst out of her, desperate and confused. "Why would you want to help me? You could have anyone, literally anyone. There are probably a dozen pack alphas with daughters who would kill for a single dance with you, and instead you're offering to take the human girl who designs cereal boxes to her company party." Alexander's expression softened, and he stepped closer. Maya was acutely aware that they were having this conversation in the middle of Vivian's boutique, but the older woman had discreetly disappeared, leaving them alone among the beautiful dresses. "Can I tell you something?" he asked. Maya nodded, not trusting her voice. "I've spent the last 5 years attending events where every person who approaches me wants something. Territory rights, political alliances, marriage contracts." His thumb traced across her wrist where he still held her, and Maya shivered. "Do you know what you wanted from me in that coffee shop?" "Help," she whispered. "Help," he agreed. "Not power, not status, not my name or my money or my connections. You just wanted someone to stand beside you so you wouldn't have to face your demons alone." His amber eyes were intense, and Maya felt pinned by their focus. "When was the last time someone wanted something from me that I was actually happy to give?" Maya stared at him, trying to process what he was saying. "So this is... what? You doing something nice for yourself?" "Partly." Alexander's smile turned mysterious again, and Maya caught a glimpse of something predatory beneath the gentleness. "But there's more to it than that." "What do you mean?" "I mean," he said, stepping even closer, "that from the moment I walked into that cafe yesterday, I haven't been able to stop thinking about you. I mean that when I heard that bastard ex of yours trying to ruin your night, something in me wanted to hunt him down and make him regret ever making you cry." His voice dropped lower, more intimate. "I mean that this might have started as me helping you, but it's become something else entirely." Maya's breath caught. "Alexander." "I know it's fast," he said quickly. "I know this whole situation is insane and you have every reason to be scared. But Maya, there's something between us. You feel it too, don't you?" She did. That golden warmth that spread through her every time he touched her, the way her body seemed to recognize his presence before her mind caught up, the inexplicable sense of safety she felt when he was near. It didn't make sense, but it was undeniably there. "I feel it," she admitted quietly. "Then let me do this for you," he said. "Let me buy you a dress that makes you feel as beautiful as you are. Let me stand beside you tomorrow night and show everyone in that room that you are precious and worthy and deserving of respect." His hand tightened slightly on her wrist. "And maybe, after we get through tomorrow night, you'll let me take you to dinner, a real dinner, just us." Maya looked up into his amber eyes and saw patience there, and sincerity, and something that made her pulse race. This was crazy. This was the Alpha King asking her on a real date, and she was a human woman who designed packaging for breakfast cereals. It shouldn't work. It couldn't work. But the way he was looking at her made her feel like it could. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay? Okay to the dress. Okay to tomorrow night." She paused, gathering her courage. "Okay to dinner afterward." Alexander's smile was brilliant, transformative. "Good," he said simply. "Now, shall we find you something that will make that ex of yours question every decision he's ever made?" Maya laughed despite everything, and the sound seemed to delight him. "I think I'd like that very much." "Vivian," Alexander called, and the boutique owner materialized immediately, as if she'd been hovering just out of sight. "We're ready." As Vivian led them toward the private dressing area, Maya caught sight of herself in one of the gilt-framed mirrors. She looked flushed and bright-eyed, more alive than she'd felt in months. Tomorrow night still terrified her. The thought of walking into that ballroom on the Alpha King's arm made her stomach flutter with nerves. But underneath the fear was something else: anticipation, excitement, the thrilling possibility that maybe, just maybe, this impossible thing between them might turn out to be real. Behind them, Vivian was already pulling gowns from hidden racks, each one more gorgeous than the last. Maya had never owned anything remotely like what she was about to try on, but as Alexander settled into a velvet chair to wait, his eyes warm and approving, she found herself looking forward to seeing what they might find. For the first time in longer than she could remember, Maya felt like she might actually be worthy of something beautiful. The Morrison Industries Gala was everything Maya had imagined and more. The grand ballroom of the Fairmont Hotel glittered under crystal chandeliers, filled with the city's business elite in their finest evening wear. She'd attended corporate events before, but never as an honoree, and certainly never wearing a gown that cost more than her monthly salary. The midnight blue dress Alexander had chosen, or rather that she'd chosen with his enthusiastic approval, fit her like it had been made for her body alone. The silk flowed like water when she moved, and the subtle beading caught the light in ways that made her feel like she was wearing starlight. But it wasn't the dress that had transformed her confidence. It was the way Alexander looked at her when she'd emerged from her bedroom that evening, like she was the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen, like she was precious beyond measure. "Ready?" he'd asked, offering his arm, and Maya had realized that yes, she was. For the first time in her life, she was ready to be seen. Now, standing at the entrance to the ballroom with Alexander's hand warm and steady on the small of her back, Maya watched the ripple of attention that followed their arrival. Conversations paused, heads turned. She caught glimpses of recognition and surprise, and something that might have been awe. "They're all staring at you," she murmured. Alexander's chuckle was low and warm against her ear. "They're staring at us, and they should be. You're stunning, Maya." Before she could respond, her supervisor appeared at her elbow, beaming widely. "Maya, you look absolutely incredible, and you must be her mystery date," Patricia said, extending her hand to Alexander. "I'm Patricia Williams, Maya's department head." "Alexander," he replied simply, shaking her hand with easy grace. Maya noticed he didn't offer his last name, though Patricia's eyes widened slightly as if she recognized him anyway. "Well," Patricia said, recovering quickly. "Maya, you're at table 12 for dinner, but first we need to get you backstage. The presentation starts in 20 minutes. Maya's stomach fluttered. She'd known this moment was coming, but the reality of walking up on that stage in front of all these people suddenly felt overwhelming. "I should go," she told Alexander. "Will you be okay on your own?" His amber eyes were steady and reassuring. "I'll be right here when you come back. Go show them what brilliance looks like." Maya squeezed his hand once, drawing strength from the contact, then followed Patricia through the crowd toward the stage area. She didn't see the way Alexander's expression shifted as she walked away, becoming something altogether more predatory and protective. The presentation went better than Maya had dared hope. Standing at the podium, looking out at 200 faces, she felt her nerves settle as she began talking about her work. The sustainable packaging innovation that had earned her this award wasn't just a professional achievement. It was something she genuinely believed in, something that could make a real difference in the world. "In conclusion," she said, wrapping up her acceptance speech, "innovation isn't just about creating something new. It's about creating something better, something that serves not just our immediate needs, but the needs of the generations who will come after us. Thank you." The applause was thunderous, and Maya felt a flush of pride as she accepted the Crystal Award from the company president. This was hers. She had earned this moment, and no one could take it away from her. As she made her way back to her table, Maya spotted Alexander immediately. He was standing beside table 12, applauding with the rest of the room, and his expression was pure pride. She had done this. She was worthy of this recognition, and somehow, impossible as it seemed, she was worthy of him too. That feeling lasted exactly 30 seconds. Well, Maya Chen! Maya's blood went cold. She turned slowly to find Derek approaching, resplendent in a perfectly tailored tuxedo, with a stunning blonde woman on his arm who could only be Stephanie. Maya had hoped the crowd might somehow swallow them, that she might get through the entire evening without having to face him directly. She should have known better. "Derek," she managed, her voice steadier than she felt. "Stephanie." "Congratulations on your little award," Derek said, his tone managing to make little sound like an insult. "Though I have to say, I'm surprised they let you give such a long speech. Most people would have just said thank you and sat back down." Maya felt heat rise in her cheeks, but before she could respond, Alexander appeared at her side. She hadn't heard him approach, but suddenly he was there, solid and reassuring, his hand settling possessively on her lower back. "I don't believe we've been introduced," Alexander said, his voice perfectly polite and absolutely terrifying. Maya had heard that tone in nature documentaries, usually right before something got eaten. Derek's eyes widened slightly as he took in Alexander's height, his presence, the unmistakable aura of power that surrounded him. But Derek had always been too arrogant for his own good. "Derek Morrison," he said, extending his hand, "Maya's ex-boyfriend, and you are—" "Her date," Alexander replied, not taking the offered hand. His voice was still polite, but there was steel underneath now. "Alexander!" "Alexander," Derek repeated, and Maya saw the exact moment recognition dawned in his expression. His face went pale, then flushed red. As in the man who's proud to be here celebrating Maya's remarkable achievement," Alexander finished smoothly. "Though I have to ask, Morrison, any relation to Morrison Industries?" Derek's chest puffed up slightly. "My father owns the company." "Interesting," Alexander said, and there was something in his tone that made Maya's stomach tighten. "Then you must know that Maya's innovation is going to save your father's company approximately $12 million annually in materials costs alone. Quite an impressive mind your ex-girlfriend has." The emphasis on ex was subtle but unmistakable, and Derek's face darkened. "Yes, well, Maya always was good at practical things." "Practical things," Alexander repeated, and now his voice was deadly quiet. "Is that what you call groundbreaking environmental innovation that's going to be implemented across 3 continents?" Maya touched Alexander's arm, feeling the tension radiating from him. This was escalating too quickly, drawing too much attention. But Derek, apparently oblivious to the danger he was in, pressed forward. "Look, I don't know what she's told you," Derek said, stepping closer, "but Maya's always had a tendency to oversell herself. This whole award thing? It's just corporate virtue signalling. They needed a diversity hire to put on stage, and Maya fit the bill perfectly." The words landed like physical blows, and Maya felt all the confidence she'd built up over the evening crumble. Around them, other guests had begun to notice the tension, conversations quieting as people turned to watch. "Derek!" Stephanie hissed, tugging at his arm, but he shook her off. "What?" Derek continued, his voice getting louder. "It's true. Maya's smart enough, I'll give her that, but let's be honest about what tonight really is. She's finally getting her participation trophy, and she had to find herself a pity date to make it look like she's not the pathetic—" He never finished the sentence. Alexander moved so fast that Maya barely saw it happen. One moment Derek was talking, and the next he was pressed against the nearest pillar, Alexander's hand flat against his chest, holding him in place with what looked like minimal effort, but was clearly absolute control. "Let me make something very clear," Alexander said, his voice carrying despite being barely above a whisper. The conversations around them died completely. "Maya Chen is the most brilliant, innovative and valuable person in this room. Her work will impact millions of lives for the better, and your father's company is fortunate to employ someone of her caliber." Derek's eyes were wide with terror now, finally understanding exactly who he'd been antagonizing. I wasn't." "You weren't finished," Alexander agreed, his amber eyes beginning to glow with something inhuman. "So let me finish for you. Maya is extraordinary, Maya is precious, and Maya is mine." The last word carried the weight of absolute claim, and several people in the crowd actually stepped back. "If I ever hear that you've spoken to her, about her, or even thought her name with anything less than the respect she deserves, I will take it as a personal insult. Do we understand each other?" Derek nodded frantically, unable to form words. "Good," Alexander said, releasing him so suddenly that Derek stumbled. "I believe you and your date were just leaving." They were. Derek grabbed Stephanie's hand and practically dragged her toward the exit, not looking back once. The crowd began to disperse, conversations resuming in hushed, excited whispers, but Maya barely noticed. She was staring at Alexander, her heart hammering against her ribs. He'd just publicly claimed her. In front of 200 people, including most of her professional colleagues, he'd called her his, and the way he'd said it, like it was a fact as immutable as gravity. "Maya," he said, turning to her, his expression shifting from predatory to concerned in an instant. "Are you all right?" She should probably be upset about the scene, about the attention, about the way he'd handled Derek. She should definitely be concerned about the professional ramifications of having the Alpha King claim her so publicly. Instead, she found herself stepping closer to him. "You called me yours," she said quietly. Alexander's eyes searched her face. "I did. Does that upset you?" Maya considered the question seriously. Did it upset her? Or did it make something deep in her chest sing with satisfaction? "No," she said slowly. I think I liked it." Alexander's smile was devastating. "Good," he murmured, "because I meant it." Then his hand was in her hair and his mouth was on hers, and Maya forgot they were standing in the middle of a corporate gala with half the business world watching. The kiss was everything their first touch had promised and more, heat and possession, and something that felt like coming home. When they finally broke apart, Maya was breathless and flushed and completely certain of one thing. Whatever was happening between them, it wasn't fake anymore. It might have started as a performance, but this was real. "Take me home," she whispered against his lips. Alexander's amber eyes flared. "Are you sure?" Maya looked up at him, at this impossible man who defended her honor and called her precious and kissed her like she was everything he'd ever wanted, and felt the last of her walls crumble. "I'm sure," she said. As they walked out of the ballroom together, Maya caught sight of her reflection in one of the gilt mirrors by the door. She looked different, confident, glowing, claimed. She looked like a woman who belonged exactly where she was. For the first time in her life, Maya felt beautiful. And for the first time since meeting Alexander, she was beginning to believe she might actually deserve to be. Alexander's penthouse was nothing like Maya had imagined. She'd expected something cold and imposing, all marble and metal befitting an Alpha King's residence. Instead, she found herself in a space that was undeniably luxurious, but surprisingly warm. Rich leather furniture, soft lighting, floor-to-ceiling windows that offered a breathtaking view of the city lights below. "Wine?" Alexander asked, moving toward what appeared to be a well-stocked bar area. He'd shed his tuxedo jacket somewhere between the elevator and the living room, and Maya found herself momentarily distracted by the way his white dress shirt stretched across his broad shoulders. "I should probably," Maya started, then stopped. "Should probably what? Go home, pretend tonight hadn't changed everything?" Yes, wine would be good. She accepted the glass he offered her, their fingers brushing in the exchange. Even that small contact sent warmth shooting through her, and from the way Alexander's eyes darkened, she wasn't the only one affected by their proximity. "You were incredible tonight," he said, settling beside her on the leather sofa. Not close enough to crowd her, but close enough that she could catch his scent, something warm and woodsy that made her want to lean closer. "Which part?" Maya asked, taking a sip of wine to steady her nerves. "The speech or the part where I stood there like a deer in headlights while my ex-boyfriend tried to humiliate me?" "The part where you accepted recognition for work that's going to change the world," Alexander said firmly, "and the part where you let me defend you instead of trying to handle Derek's poison alone." Maya set down her wineglass and turned to face him fully. "About that? Alexander, what you did tonight, calling me yours, kissing me in front of everyone, that wasn't part of our agreement." "No," he agreed quietly. "It wasn't." "So what was it?" Alexander was quiet for a long moment, and Maya watched emotions play across his face. Desire, uncertainty, something that looked almost like vulnerability. When he finally spoke, his voice was lower than usual. "Maya, I need to tell you something, and I'm not sure how you're going to react." He paused, running a hand through his dark hair. "I didn't meet you by accident yesterday." Maya's stomach flipped. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I was drawn to that cafe. There's something in the supernatural world called a mate bond, a connection that exists between destined partners. It's rare, even among my kind, but when it happens, it's—" He struggled for words. It's undeniable. Maya stared at him, her mind racing. Are you saying... I'm saying that from the moment I walked into that coffee shop, every instinct I have has been screaming that you're mine. That golden thread you've been feeling when we touch, that warmth in your chest. That's the bond, Maya. You're my fated mate. The words hung in the air between them like a challenge. Maya felt her breathing grow shallow, her heart hammering against her ribs. That's impossible. Is it? Alexander leaned forward slightly, his amber eyes intense. Has anything about this felt normal to you? The way you trusted me so completely yesterday? The way your body responds to mine? The way you feel safe with me even though you barely know me? Maya opened her mouth to deny it, then closed it again. Because he was right. None of this felt normal. She'd let a complete stranger take her shopping, buy her a dress worth more than her car, and escort her to the most important night of her professional career. She'd felt more comfortable in his presence than she had with men she'd known for years. But I'm human, she whispered. So? So you're the Alpha King. You're supposed to mate with another Alpha, someone who can give you strong children and political alliances and... Maya. Alexander's voice was patient but firm. Do you think I care about any of that? You should care about it. Your pack cares about it. Your advisors care about it. The entire supernatural community can go to hell, Alexander finished calmly. I've spent 5 years listening to everyone tell me what I should want, who I should choose, what would be best for the kingdom. Do you know what none of them ever asked? Maya shook her head. What would make me happy? He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and cupped her face in his palm. You make me happy, Maya. You make me feel like a man instead of just a title. When I'm with you, I'm not the Alpha King who has to be constantly on guard, constantly perfect. I'm just Alexander. Maya felt tears threatening. You don't understand what you'd be giving up. I can't give you what an alpha female could. I can't... What can't you give me? Alexander's thumb traced across her cheekbone. Intelligence? You're the most brilliant woman I've ever met. Strength? You've been surviving on your own, building a career, creating innovations that will impact millions of lives. Compassion? You were crying yesterday not because someone hurt you, but because you were worried about embarrassing yourself at your own celebration. That's not the same as... As what? Political connections? I have enough power that I don't need strategic alliances. Physical strength? Maya, I'm strong enough to protect us both. What I need is someone who sees me for who I really am, someone who challenges me to be better, someone who makes me want to come home at the end of the day. His eyes were fierce now, golden and intense. I need you. Maya felt something crack open in her chest, something that had been locked away for so long she'd forgotten it existed. Alexander. I know it's terrifying, he said softly. I know it seems impossible. But Maya, I felt you the moment you walked into my world, not the award-winning scientist, not the professional who had her life perfectly planned out. You. The woman who was brave enough to ask a stranger for help. The woman who stood up in front of 200 people and talked about making the world better. The woman who let me defend her tonight instead of trying to handle everything alone. What if I'm not enough? The question came out as barely a whisper. What if I can't be what you need me to be? Alexander's expression gentled, and he shifted closer, eliminating the careful distance he'd maintained. Can I tell you something I've never told anyone? Maya nodded. When I was 16, my father died in a challenge fight. I became Alpha King at an age when most wolves are still learning to control their shifts. I've spent the last 15 years making decisions that affect thousands of lives, negotiating treaties, settling disputes, being responsible for an entire species. His voice was quiet, vulnerable. Do you know how long it's been since someone took care of me? Maya's heart clenched. She could see it now. The boy who'd had to become a king before he was ready. The man who'd carried that responsibility alone for years. I don't need you to be anything other than exactly what you are, Alexander continued. I don't need you to be supernatural or political or strategically advantageous. I need you to be the woman who makes me remember what it feels like to be wanted for myself. I need you to be my home." Maya felt the tears spill over then, but they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of relief, of recognition, of something that felt like destiny finally clicking into place. "I'm scared," she admitted. "So am I," Alexander said, and his honesty was somehow more reassuring than any promise could have been. "I'm terrified that you'll decide this is too much, too complicated, too impossible. I'm scared that you'll wake up tomorrow and realize you don't want the life I'm offering you." Maya looked at him, really looked at him. Not the Alpha King, not the powerful leader she'd been intimidated by, but Alexander, the man who'd heard her crying in a coffee shop and offered to help, the man who'd bought her a dress that made her feel like a queen, the man who'd defended her honor in front of everyone who mattered to her career, the man who was looking at her like she was everything he'd ever wanted. "What exactly are you offering me?" she asked softly. Alexander's smile was tentative but hopeful. "Everything. My heart, my life, my throne if you want it. A partnership where you don't have to give up your career or your independence or any of the things that make you who you are. A chance to find out what we could build together." Maya felt the bond he described pulling tight in her chest, that golden thread connecting them becoming impossible to ignore. She thought about her old life, the apartment she'd lived in alone for 3 years, the job that fulfilled her but never challenged her to be more than she already was, the careful, controlled existence she'd built where no one could disappoint her because she never let anyone close enough to try. Then she looked at Alexander and saw possibility, adventure, love that felt like coming home and taking flight all at once. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay. Okay to trying, okay to seeing what this is between us, okay to being terrified and doing it anyway." She leaned into his touch, feeling some of the tension leave her shoulders. "But Alexander." "Yes?" "No more surprises. If we're doing this, we do it together. Equal partners, equal decisions." Alexander's smile was brilliant. "Deal." When he kissed her this time, it was different from the passionate claiming at the gala. This kiss was a promise, a beginning, a mutual choice made with full understanding of what they were risking and what they might gain. As Maya melted into his arms, she realized that for the first time in her life, she wasn't afraid of the unknown. Because whatever came next, she wouldn't be facing it alone. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of discovery and adjustment. Maya had expected dating the Alpha King to be overwhelming, and in many ways it was, but not in the way she'd anticipated. Instead of feeling like she was drowning in his world, she found herself learning to swim in it, with Alexander as her patient and devoted guide. Mornings became her favourite time. Alexander was an early riser, and Maya discovered the pleasure of waking up to the smell of coffee already brewing and the sight of him moving around his kitchen with surprising domesticity. He insisted on making her breakfast before she left for work, claiming it was his way of ensuring she took proper care of herself. "You don't have to feed me every morning," she'd protested the first week, watching him expertly flip pancakes while simultaneously checking emails on his phone. "I want to," he'd replied simply, pressing a travel mug of perfectly prepared coffee into her hands. "Let me take care of you, Maya. It makes me happy." And it did make him happy, she could see that. There was something almost reverent in the way he watched her eat the meals he prepared, as if the simple act of nourishing her fulfilled some deep need in him she was only beginning to understand. Work became more complicated, but not in ways Maya had feared. Her colleagues were respectful, even deferential, but they still treated her as the same competent professional she'd always been. If anything, the recognition from the gala had opened doors she hadn't expected. 3 major companies had reached out about consulting opportunities, and her supervisor had hinted about a promotion to department head. "People are taking me more seriously," she told Alexander over dinner one evening. They were at his penthouse again, sharing takeout from her favourite Thai restaurant because he'd insisted on learning all her preferences. "They should have been taking you seriously before," Alexander said, his tone suggesting he had strong opinions about anyone who hadn't recognised her worth previously. "But they weren't, and now they are, because of you, because of being seen with you." Maya set down her chopsticks, the thought that had been nagging at her for days finally demanding voice. What if this is all just reflected glory? What if I'm only successful now because I'm the Alpha King's girlfriend? Alexander's amber eyes grew serious. "Maya, look at me." She did. "Your innovation is being implemented across 17 countries. Morrison Industries' stock price jumped 12% after announcing their partnership with your design. 3 Fortune 500 companies are competing to hire you." His voice was patient but firm. "None of that happened because you're dating me. That happened because you're brilliant." "But the attention—" "Opened doors that should have been open all along," Alexander finished. "Maya, all I did was make sure the right people knew who you were. Your talent did the rest." As if to prove his point, her phone buzzed with yet another email from a headhunter. Maya was beginning to understand that being with Alexander hadn't diminished her accomplishments. It had simply ensured they received the recognition they deserved. Meeting his inner circle had been intimidating at first. Maya had expected suspicion, resentment, perhaps outright hostility from the powerful alphas who served as Alexander's advisors and closest friends. Instead, she'd found acceptance, curiosity, and something that felt remarkably like approval. "She's perfect for you," she'd overheard Marcus, Alexander's head of security, telling him after their first dinner together. "Smart, strong, and she doesn't take any of your royal nonsense." "Royal nonsense?" Alexander had protested with mock indignation. "You know exactly what I mean," Marcus had laughed. The brooding, the dramatic declarations, the tendency to speak in royal proclamations when you're feeling territorial. Maya had hidden her smile, recognising the good-natured ribbing for what it was, acceptance. These men who would die for Alexander were welcoming her into their pack, treating her like someone who belonged. But it was the quiet moments that truly changed everything. Alexander coming home from difficult council meetings and immediately seeking her out, as if her presence alone could calm whatever storm he'd been weathering. Maya working late at her laptop while he read reports beside her, their feet tangled together on his coffee table. The way he listened when she talked about her projects, asking thoughtful questions that proved he wasn't just humouring her, but genuinely interested in understanding her work. "I've never had this before," she admitted one evening as they walked through the moonlit gardens of his private estate. He'd brought her here for the weekend, wanting to show her the place where he found peace away from his royal duties. "Had what?" Alexander asked, his fingers laced securely through hers. "Someone who wants to know about my day. Someone who remembers that I have that presentation on Thursday and asks how it went. Someone who—" She struggled for words. "Someone who sees me." Alexander stopped walking and turned to face her, his expression tender in the moonlight. "Maya, you realise that's what love is supposed to feel like, don't you? Being seen, being known, being cherished for exactly who you are." The word love hung between them, like a gift neither had quite dared unwrap yet. They'd been dancing around it for weeks, the feeling growing stronger each day but unspoken, as if saying it out loud might somehow make it too real, too powerful, too terrifying. "Alexander," Maya began, but he shook his head gently. "I know," he said softly. "I feel it too. And I know neither of us is ready to say it yet. But Maya, when you are ready, when we're both ready, I'll be here." That was when everything started to unravel. The first sign of trouble came in the form of a carefully worded article in the city's largest newspaper. Maya might have missed it entirely if Alexander's press secretary hadn't called him in a panic early Monday morning. "A spotlight on the Alpha King's surprising choice," Maya read aloud from the headline section, her stomach sinking with each word. Local packaging designer catches the eye of supernatural royalty. The article wasn't overtly critical, but it was damaging in subtle ways. It questioned her qualifications, hinted that her recent professional success was suspiciously timed with her relationship announcement, and included several quotes from industry insiders who wondered whether she was truly suited for such a high-profile position in supernatural society. "It's Derek," Maya said flatly, recognizing the particular brand of poison even without his name attached. "He's feeding them information." Alexander's expression was thunderous. "I'll handle this." "No." Maya's voice was sharper than she'd intended. "You can't make this go away with royal pressure. That will just prove their point, that I need you to fight my battles for me. Maya, this isn't about fighting battles. This is about protecting what's mine." The possessive declaration that had thrilled her at the gala now made her feel claustrophobic. "I'm not a possession, Alexander. I'm a partner, and partners handle things together." But the damage was spreading faster than they could contain it. By Wednesday, 3 more articles had appeared, each one more invasive than the last. Someone had leaked details about their coffee shop meeting, spinning it as Maya targeting the Alpha King for personal gain. Her professional email was flooded with interview requests, most of them thinly veiled attempts to get her to comment on her relationship rather than her work. The breaking point came when a reporter approached her in the Morrison Industries parking garage. "Ms. Chen, can you comment on allegations that your award was influenced by your relationship with the Alpha King?" Maya's blood ran cold. "Excuse me. Sources close to the company suggest that your innovation wasn't the only factor in your selection for the award. Care to respond?" "My relationship with Alexander began after the award selection process was already complete," Maya said evenly, though her hands were shaking. "But you were seen together before the ceremony," the reporter pressed. "Are you saying there was no connection between your personal relationship and your professional recognition?" Maya felt her carefully constructed confidence crumbling. Every doubt she pushed aside came rushing back with devastating force. What if they were right? What if her success really was just reflected glory? What if everything she'd worked for was being tainted by association? That evening, she stood in Alexander's living room and said the words she'd been dreading. "Maybe I should step back." Alexander went very still. "What do you mean, step back?" "From this, from us, from the public eye, until things calm down." Maya couldn't meet his eyes. "My professional reputation is being destroyed, Alexander. Everything I've worked for is being called into question." "So we fight back. We prove them wrong." "We?" Maya laughed, but there was no humour in it. "Alexander, don't you see? That's the problem. There is no we in my professional life. There's me, and there's the shadow of your influence that apparently follows me everywhere now." "Maya, you're letting them win. You're letting Derek and his poison make you doubt everything we've built." "What if they're right, though?" The question came out as barely a whisper. "What if I really am just riding your coattails? What if none of my success is actually mine?" Alexander crossed the room in 3 strides, his hands coming up to frame her face. "Look at me," he commanded, and Maya found herself obeying despite everything. "You are the most talented, innovative, brilliant woman I have ever met. Your success is yours. Your achievements are yours. The only thing I've given you is recognition you already deserved." "But no," Alexander said firmly. "I won't let you do this to yourself. I won't let them make you believe you're less than extraordinary." Maya felt tears threatening. "I don't know how to be with you and still be myself. I don't know how to have my own identity when yours is so much bigger than mine." "Then we figure it out together," Alexander said simply. "We set boundaries, we make statements, we show the world that you don't need me to be successful. You just deserve to have me support that success." Maya looked up at him, seeing the determination in his amber eyes, the absolute certainty that they could weather this storm. And for the first time since the articles had started appearing, she felt something other than panic. She felt hope. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay? Okay to fighting back, okay to figuring it out together, okay to not letting them win. Maya took a shaky breath. But Alexander, we do this as equals. No royal proclamations, no threats, no using your power to make this go away. We handle this with truth and facts and letting my work speak for itself. Alexander's smile was fierce and proud. Deal. But Maya? Yes. When we get through this, and we will get through this, I'm going to make sure everyone knows exactly how proud I am to be with you. Not because you need my validation, but because you deserve to be celebrated. As Alexander pulled her into his arms, Maya felt the last of her doubt dissolve. Derek could spread his poison, reporters could question her worth, and the whole world could doubt her qualifications. But she knew who she was, and more importantly, she knew what she and Alexander were building together. Something real, something strong, something that could survive whatever storm came next, and tomorrow they would start proving it. 2 months later, Maya stood before a packed auditorium at the International Innovation Summit, looking out at an audience that included CEOs, environmental scientists, and government officials from around the world. The invitation to deliver the keynote address had come directly from the summit organisers, based solely on the global impact of her sustainable packaging design. No mention of Alexander, no questions about her personal life, just recognition of her work and its significance. Innovation, she said, her voice carrying clearly through the auditorium, begins with seeing a problem that others have accepted as unsolvable. Today, I want to talk about how one small change in thinking can create ripple effects that touch millions of lives. As she spoke about her design process, the challenges she'd overcome, and the environmental impact of her innovation, Maya felt a deep sense of satisfaction. This was hers. This moment, this recognition, this platform. She had earned every bit of it. In the audience, Alexander watched with undisguised pride, but he wasn't the only one. Marcus sat beside him, along with several other pack members who had insisted on attending to support their future queen. Patricia from Morrison Industries was there, beaming from the front row. Even the headhunter who had been courting Maya for weeks had flown in from Singapore specifically to hear her speak. The questions that followed her presentation were thoughtful, technical, focused entirely on her work. Not a single reporter asked about her relationship status or tried to diminish her achievements by association. The narrative had shifted, just as Alexander had promised it would. The shift hadn't happened overnight. It had taken weeks of careful strategy, joint appearances where Maya's expertise was the focus, and professional statements that established clear boundaries between her career and their relationship. But gradually, inexorably, the truth had emerged. Maya Chen was a force to be reckoned with, regardless of whom she chose to love. Derek's campaign of whispers and innuendo had ultimately backfired spectacularly. His attempts to plant stories questioning Maya's qualifications had been thoroughly debunked by industry experts who lined up to praise her innovation. Morrison Industries' stock had continued to rise as international contracts poured in. 3 major awards committees had reached out to nominate her for additional honours. The final nail in Derek's reputation had come when it was revealed that he had been feeding information to reporters in direct violation of his non-disclosure agreements with Morrison Industries. His termination had been swift and public, along with a legal warning that ended any further attempts at sabotage. He destroyed himself, Alexander had observed with satisfaction when the news broke. Truth has a way of doing that to people who deal in lies. Now, accepting thunderous applause as her keynote concluded, Maya felt lighter than she had in months. She had proven to herself, to the world, and most importantly, to the voice of doubt in her own head, that she was exactly who she had always been, a brilliant innovator whose work spoke for itself. The evening celebration was held in the summit's grand ballroom, and Maya found herself at the centre of a whirlwind of congratulations and business cards. International partnerships, consulting opportunities, speaking engagements. The offers seemed endless. Dr. Chen, said a woman with a crisp British accent, approaching with an extended hand. Dr. Sarah Williams from the Cambridge Environmental Initiative, we would be honoured to have you consider a visiting professorship position. A visiting professorship at Cambridge. Maya felt her breath catch. It was the kind of opportunity she had only dreamed of, the pinnacle of academic recognition in her field. I'd love to hear more, Maya said, accepting the woman's card. As Dr. Williams outlined the position, research freedom, international collaboration, the chance to work with the world's leading environmental scientists. Maya felt excitement building in her chest. This was everything she had worked toward, validation from the most prestigious institutions in her field. There would be significant travel involved, Doctor, Williams explained, lecturing commitments in London, field research opportunities across Europe. We understand you have ties here, of course, but we hope... She'll need time to consider all her options. Alexander's voice cut smoothly through the conversation. Maya looked up to find him beside her, his hand settling warmly on her lower back. Maya is in high demand, as I'm sure you can understand. Dr. Williams's eyes widened slightly as she recognized him, but she recovered quickly. Of course, please take all the time you need. The position will remain open as long as necessary. After she moved away, Alexander turned to Maya with questioning eyes. Visiting professorship at Cambridge? It's an incredible opportunity, Maya said carefully, studying his expression. But it would mean months away from here. From me. Alexander's voice was neutral, but Maya could see the tension in his shoulders. Alexander! Let's talk about this at home, he said quietly. Tonight should be about celebrating your success. But the conversation hung between them for the rest of the evening, a shadow over what should have been pure triumph. Maya found herself watching Alexander carefully, looking for signs of the possessiveness or demands she feared might surface. Instead, she saw something that made her heart ache, resignation, as if he had already accepted that she would choose the opportunity over their relationship. Later that night, in the familiar comfort of his penthouse, they finally addressed the elephant in the room. Cambridge is everything I've ever dreamed of professionally, Maya said, settling beside him on the sofa where they'd had so many important conversations. I know, Alexander replied simply. It's the kind of opportunity that might not come again. I know that too. Maya studied his profile, the careful control he was maintaining over his expression. You're not going to ask me to stay? No, Alexander said quietly. I'm not. Why not? He turned to face her then, his amber eyes warm but sad. Because I love you, Maya. Not the version of you that gives up her dreams to be with me, not the version that makes herself smaller to fit into my world. I love the brilliant, ambitious, passionate woman who just delivered a keynote address to a room full of people who hung on her every word. He paused, reaching out to touch her cheek. How could I ask you to be anything less than everything you're capable of becoming? Maya felt tears threaten, even if it means losing you. Even then. Alexander's smile was heartbreaking. Though for what it's worth, I don't think it has to mean that. Alexander, the position would require months abroad. So I'll visit, or you'll visit, or we'll figure out video calls and text messages and making the most of every moment we have together. His thumb traced across her cheekbone. Maya, do you think my feelings for you are so fragile that they can't survive some distance? But you're the Alpha King. You can't just travel to London whenever. I'm the Alpha King with a private jet, extensive international connections, and the most efficient pack management system in the supernatural world, Alexander corrected with a slight smile. If anyone can make a long-distance relationship work, it's us. Maya stared at him, searching for any sign of hidden resentment or martyrdom. Instead, she found only love, support, and genuine excitement for her opportunity. You really mean that? She said wonderingly. Maya, your success doesn't threaten me. Your achievements don't diminish what we have together. If anything, watching you excel in your field makes me love you more. Alexander pulled her closer until she was curled against his side. "I want to be with the woman who changes the world, not the woman who gives up changing the world to be with me." Maya felt something settle deep in her chest, a peace she hadn't even realized she'd been seeking. "I love you too," she whispered against his shoulder. "I know," Alexander murmured, pressing a kiss to the top of her head. "I've known for weeks. I was just waiting for you to be ready to say it." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, the weight of the admission settling between them like a bridge finally completed. "So," Alexander said eventually, "when do we call Dr. Williams back?" Maya pulled back to look at him. "We? Of course we. You don't think I'm letting you navigate international academia alone, do you? I have connections at Cambridge. I know people who know people. And someone needs to make sure they treat my brilliant girlfriend with the respect she deserves." Maya laughed, feeling lighter than air. "Your girlfriend?" "Well," Alexander said, his expression turning serious. "I was hoping we might discuss making that title more permanent soon, but I suppose that conversation can wait until after Cambridge." "Or," Maya said slowly, an idea forming, "we could have that conversation now." Alexander's eyes sharpened with interest. "Now?" "I've been thinking about what you said before, about partnership, about building something together." Maya turned to face him fully. "Alexander, I don't want a long engagement. I don't want months of planning and royal protocols and political considerations. I want to marry you before I leave for Cambridge. I want to go to England as your wife, not just your girlfriend." Alexander's smile was radiant. "Maya Chen, are you proposing to me?" "I'm proposing a partnership," Maya corrected. "Equal partners who support each other's dreams, who trust each other enough to weather distance and challenges, who choose each other every day regardless of what the world throws at us." "That," Alexander said, pulling her into his arms, "sounds perfect." Their wedding was small and perfect, held in the gardens of Alexander's estate, with only their closest friends and family present. Maya wore a simple white dress that made her feel beautiful without overshadowing who she was. Alexander's vows promised to support her dreams wherever they led, and Maya's promised to always come home to him. 6 months later, Maya was settled into her Cambridge office, leading a research team that was expanding her environmental innovations into new applications. Alexander visited every other week, and she flew home monthly. Their relationship had grown stronger rather than strained under the pressure of distance, each reunion sweeter for the time apart. On a particularly cold London morning, Maya was reviewing research proposals when her phone buzzed with a text from Alexander. "Saw the Financial Times article about your latest breakthrough. The Queen of Environmental Innovation strikes again. Can't wait to celebrate with you this weekend. I love you." Maya smiled, looking out at the Cambridge campus where students hurried between classes, where brilliant minds gathered to solve the world's problems, where she had found her place not despite her relationship with Alexander, but alongside it. She typed back, "Love you too, my king. See you Friday." She had everything she'd ever dreamed of and more: recognition for her work, the respect of her peers, a career that challenged and fulfilled her, and a partnership with a man who celebrated every one of her achievements as if they were his own. Maya Chen had learned that she didn't have to choose between love and success, between being cherished and being independent, between belonging to someone and belonging to herself. She could have it all. She deserved to have it all. And with Alexander beside her, supporting every dream she dared to chase, she knew she always would.